Hey, we're here live at the Squid Cove project. You guys have seen this project probably many times on the YouTube channel. And we're doing a photo shoot today with Trent. And there's Trent's car, it's my truck. We're just kind of rearranging a number of things here in the house. So if you have any questions, we're gonna do kind of a Q&A, but I also kind of just wanted to show you around since I think some people may have seen this, but maybe not the finished product here. So we're kind of lucky now that the clients actually finished all the landscaping around here. So we have a little bit of work to do on the sort of northern end of the site. Hello, good to see you all. Thanks for joining me. On the western side here, which we're getting ready to shoot in a little bit here, it's really been planted out nicely. So lots to see here. Generator up on this side. We have solar panels up on the roof. I don't know if you can see those too well. Ocean view out here. Beautiful day today. We really lucked out. Cheers. Thanks for joining me. Hi from Cape Town. Hey, good to see you. So this is the sort of western side here. Hey, Algeria checking in. Thank you for swinging by. So this is the board formed concrete wall that we did on the sort of living room terrace side, and you can see this is the view out here. Just a beautiful site. I really lucked out with this client, choosing a really fantastic place. This is the sort of so the entry court, we come in on the uphill side here, the northern side of the site. So the entry court is here, and this is the view out to the ocean here, and that's Acadia National Park in the distance. The chairs and things, we've sort of stripped out all of the deck space to sort of clean it up for the photographs. So when you're doing a photo shoot, one of the sort of prime things that you're doing is kind of stripping it out and making it a little more minimal and really emphasizing the architecture and the space more than the sort of accessories in that space. Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks for, thank you for tuning in. Really great to see all of you. So I'll set this down for a minute. What we've done today is basically gotten all the exterior shots in the morning. We had really great morning light, sort of from this side. So that's east. Sun rises in the east here, sort of tracks across the sky here to the western side, and we're waiting this afternoon to really capture the afternoon light, and we're going to do some dusk shots of this whole face of the structure. But the design here is basically three wings. So this wing over here is the sort of guest wing, and it has the garage on the uphill side. There's a study at that large window here, and then this is a guest bedroom on the lower level here where the ferns are. Each one of these wings is meant to be designed to really be closed off. So we get a lot of storms here, and you can imagine that it's so close to the ocean that they needed a way to sort of protect all of this glass. So all these barn door panels sort of slide and close this off. So today's photo shoot has really been working to follow the sun around the house and really capture the best opportunity. And you can see in here, sometimes you have to kind of stash things off to the side to get them out of the way. But let's come down to the water, have a look here. So the site is really sloping pretty substantially down to the water. And part of the design concept was to have the house terrace with that landscape here. So you can kind of see how the different tiers sort of stack up. I know it's a little tricky to see here. The high barn wing is here, the living wing is here, and then the master suite is over here. That has the sort of most private aspect to the site, and this is their view out here. So shoreline zoning, so we have a certain setback requirement that we have to meet with the house. Here in the foreground, this is the sort of boom pole that we've been using to set the camera up high enough so that we can get a good aspect ratio on the house. It can be sort of tricky to photograph this because you're just down so low, and the building lines are just converging, and it's quite difficult actually from this aspect. Let's come around this side a little bit. see the board formed concrete that forms the planting wall. And then we did that in part to keep from having to add a guardrail there. I am planning to get some drone shots. Yes, that's going to happen a little bit later. We actually had some people spying on us here earlier as we were photographing with the drone too. So this is the western facade here. You can see our solar panels high up on the roof here. Living wing is in the middle. The guest space has its own private view right here. Far beyond that is the master bedroom, that far corner over there. Super private site here. Fantastic client. Let's see if we can pop up and have a look at the climbing room for a minute. So this house, these clients do a lot of climbing, and because the ice climbing in this part of Maine is pretty terrible, they needed a way to climb during the winter. So we designed a climbing room, an indoor climbing room for them. This is the guest bedroom here. Nice private guest bedroom. We'll go inside in a minute. So, climbing room is in here. I don't know how well you can see that. We'll go in there in a minute. I am planning to go to Las Vegas. So somebody just asked in the chat if I'm going to the AIA convention. Yes, I'm planning to go. Good seeing you all. Thanks for checking in. Huge barn doors everywhere. This is the sort of main entry, and it's a little bit cluttered because we've been shooting inside, so various bits of furniture kind of hanging out and around here. Oh, there's a black sheet up. This is Trent and Corey.
Howdy.
These are our photographers here. So did I just walk into a shot?
Totally.
I totally ruined the shot. So this is where we're all set up here.
No, we're good.
And I just wrecked it.
No,
So
we're just getting the reflection through there.
Oh, okay.
So
a lot of what happens here is sort of done in post. Is that right?
a lot of it happens on site and in post. It's
Okay.
a combination where you used to be able to get maybe 4 to 6 incredible images in a day, architecturally with film.
Sure.
Today you can get a lot more, but you also create a lot more work for yourself after the
In
fact.
post. Okay.
So, yeah, but we were just getting, you put that black sheet beyond and the light reflecting in these windows, we were seeing into here. And so it was creating a lot of confusion
Oh,
through
interesting.
the windows.
Okay,
so,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
black sheet.
so you were trained, Trent, as an architect. Is that right?
That is right. I had my master's degree in architecture and practiced for 3 years.
Really? And so you made a departure at some point, I'm presuming, right? I mean, this is a full-time gig for you?
Full-time gig. I worked as an architect for 3 years, and just with my personality and my need for things to be continually changing and to be my own boss, I was pretty nervous about it, but I, stepped away from practice of architecture, and that's a big investment, getting into architecture and all that time for IDP and everything else. But I'm really glad I did, because the creative turnover of photography for me works really well.
Sure.
And it's something where you can fail or succeed greatly, so it keeps you interested. But if you make a great employee and you like stability, don't do it.
So creative challenges today have been what? With this particular shoot here, because people on the channel have seen this house in various stages. You get to see it today, and then I'm basically saying, hey, Trent, give me your best stuff right now, right? Is that, is that a creative challenge for you, or is that something that, is that kind of what drives you forward here?
It's really, we have a good working rapport, and you have a lot of trust in me just from what you've seen me do and working in the past. So it takes a lot of the difficulty of what I do out of it, because for one, you've got great design here. The hardest part is really choosing which compositions you're going to go with.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of really, really great things you can get, and so that can be a hard thing divert you away from all the other things that you should be getting.
Sure.
Focusing on the few quality things to not try and get everything. So that's one of the harder parts of this house. The other challenges, really, they're just a lot of things like interior styling, like where to put things, and that's going to be generally the same with every single house.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a couch that needs to move here or there, and why did they do this on the interior, just with how maybe the owner styled it or something.
Right.
But
I would have thought that you would have said the most creatively challenging thing would have been the light, because I've photographed this house in many different lights, and I feel like I've never quite gotten it right. Like, how do you approach that?
To me, different lighting situations for any composition, if it's a really winning composition, like the one we were shooting from over there looking this way, that's just incredible. And also the one looking out here.
Yeah, that view down there.
It just frames it into a mountain. It's really incredible. And when you have a composition that's that good, right? So like right now we have the light coming from behind us, and it's like you can feel like you're maybe, late afternoon, just hanging out, and it still has a really good feel. If this were all completely in shadow and that were really dark or really bright out there, then maybe that would be a bad lighting situation. Yeah. But even if the sun was coming up just to, left, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock over here, it would still be great. Even with the light coming at you, it would feel nice. You just still have a lot of work in post-production to do.
I see. Okay.
So there's specifically just different feels of light that you'll get, different feelings around it.
Sure.
And it's, to me, the worst light is the light that's coming from behind you, because you lose all the shadowing, all the depth, and everything else. So it's like having an on-camera flash.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you just kind of like, you fill it in.
Right.
And it just doesn't look that great.
Sure.
But again, there's always going to be kind of a light coming at you is going to have a more dreamy feel to it. There's going to be a little loss of contrast and kind of that nice feel. But generally for me, anything from side to side forward is pretty good lighting.
Okay.
So it just all depends what you're trying to get out of that. And I generally find that most any composition, especially with a project like this, you can take a lot of different type of lighting scenarios, and as long as you get that right composition, if you can work with it in post.
Sure.
I have someone very talented doing post-production.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
So it works out, but it can be very difficult.
Sure.
So,
okay. Interesting. So when you're looking at, like, if we come into this space for a moment here, as you're looking at this, like, compositionally, like, how do you walk into a space, like, what do you look for?
So,
like, what would I look for if I was, as an amateur photographer, like, trying to capture this?
The thing that I'm always looking at is where in the final image, where are you going to put yourself? Like, where are you going to be able to see yourself, right? So if we were to be over here, and like we didn't shoot this composition because it had this, like, just right at you.
Okay, it's right in your face. Yeah.
Right. We shot this more as a detail rather than an overall composition, because when you come into this frame, you're forced to either go that way or this way, and there's not really a place where you're like, oh man, if I was in that space, I'd be right there.
So something that sort of you can
right.
As the viewer, imagine you're standing there.
So if we look at the composition we shot earlier, here we shot a rough composition of this. You can easily place yourself at the dining room.
Sure.
It's maybe not that real cozy moment or whatever else, but you really get a sense of the space, and you have a place where you mentally, like, man, I could really enjoy just, even just working on my laptop there for the afternoon. And when we went for the living room shot here, we had the idea we could shoot it straight on.
Okay.
They have this bookshelf, which is kind of like a block to the seating area and everything.
Not
else
ideal.
there,
Yeah.
which is just not ideal. I mean, I think it's a nice bookshelf, and I'd love to get some books out of there and just hang out here in this space. But so we came over here, where you have the ability from the frame to come in and sit in either couch, and we have, I think, one chair over there. So
we did, yeah.
You were drawn to that. It was obvious where you were going to be, And so, to me, it's just always about, especially with interiors, where's the moment where the viewer wants to place themselves?
Right.
And then, Generally, I prefer very indirect light. It's just softer and more calming.
So this is entirely too harsh at
This
this
is
point.
very harsh light. I mean, you can make it look right, and we did have to shoot part of this with some light coming in, but you can, again, you can work with lighting to a large degree with digital photography if you do it right.
Sure.
You use strobes to infill and everything else. But yes, I generally find that indirect lighting for me, north light, if you will. You know, artist studios will typically have north light because you're not just going to get blazing light in.
Right.
It's a very calm, welcoming, just not too crazy thing. Bathrooms and bedrooms, sometimes some direct light is really nice.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
you know.
So let's go to this bedroom for a minute, because when we were shooting this bedroom, you know, the bed in here was an unanticipated surprise for me.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite what I was planning. So like, talk to me for a minute about how we deal with something like this. So we have this like pretty contemporary, you know, design here. So contemporary headboard. All of the closets in here are, you know, contemporary, pretty clean, slick lines. Obviously, you've seen the exterior. That's clean and slick. And then we have this piece, which is kind of a visual disconnect. So what do you do?
Right. You hire someone who's really good at post-production and a creative photographer who knows how to get things how the architect originally intended it.
So it's post-production again. Okay.
Well, like what we had done, we had shot this as is. We had rolled the rug up because we wanted to see more of the floor. We changed the bedspread out to get the styling a little more like we like.
Right.
I'm always looking to get something foreground, middle ground,
Right,
and
so
then
we-
maybe view. So we used that lamp kind of as foreground.
Kind of pulled that in
the
there.
bed where you'd be sitting, but then it was focusing on the view beyond where you'd see.
Sure.
We didn't like this much in it, so we changed the bedspread, and then to deal with this, we shot it as is. But then the issue is from where the camera was.
Mm-hmm.
To take this out, you wouldn't have the information of what was behind here.
Okay,
That you would have
right.
seen if we took the footboard out. So what we did, we took the photo and we did a tilt shift combination where we got the ceiling and the floor, got all that information. We did strobe to infill. But then we took the entire bed. We can't really take this bed apart and move it out on a schedule and
Too
budget
heavy.
like we have today.
Right.
So we moved it all the way over, shot again from the same fixed position. So we have all the same data, but we just get more data over in here.
Fill that in.
So
Okay.
my retoucher can bring this information in. Then we picked up the bed, moved it all the way over, and then photographed that part so you can put it in.
So the camera stays in one spot the
Absolutely
whole time?
one spot.
So
now
nobody
we shifted up and down
Okay.
to get that, but yeah, my retoucher will be able to take this stuff out and just, you know, kind of cut and paste to a degree. I mean, it's obviously not that simple, but yeah, it's if you just approach the production of it creatively and you get all the data that you need, knowing what you can do in post, then you can, you know, really
Sure.
make it happen in the final image.
Okay. And so when obviously I think we're sort of waiting around for dusk, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be some of the next shots. We get the exterior shots where the interior is lit. What are some things to think about there? What are the concerns?
With dusk shots?
Yeah.
Dusk images, you can generally get about 3 different types of images. I find there you're going to get kind of the kind of late afternoon feel, and then you're going to get kind of a balanced feel. The late afternoon, it'll still be darker inside, it'll still brighter outside,
Okay.
and then you'll move into a point where it's kind of like equal outside and inside, where you can see outside, but it still doesn't feel like night.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally find that I can shoot ISO 100, aperture 11, and 1 second is about where, if that'll generally balance for incandescent lighting temperature on the inside.
Okay.
That'll be about what I set it at, and I wait for the outside light to meet that, because that's usually about where the interior light will meet the outside light.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll watch it kind of shift. And so then you'll get this look that a lot of architects feel like a dusk image is like cheating. But if you shoot it for them, generally they will want it afterwards.
I totally want it. Yeah. That's
It's kind of cheating because it's just so like, oh, I want to be inside there.
Yeah.
But so if you'll get that kind of balanced look, and then if you keep shooting, you'll get more of a look where the light from the inside of the building becomes the key light that starts to actually spill out onto the grass.
Okay.
and like light up that, so
Sure.
you get your light direction more coming from inside the house out onto your landscape.
I see. Yep.
And then the surface of the building will infill with a much more blue light.
Sure.
And you'll have those different color temperatures.
I see.
So
Let's go into the bathroom just for a minute because I had a question for you in here. So this is a dark space.
Yeah.
How do you handle something like this? Do you just, I mean, are we just using the light in the space? I mean, in this shower here, we have a window, right? But that's not enough light. So what do you like? How do you treat a darker space like this?
So when we shot this, you might be getting it. Yeah. So this, even in your camera there on your phone, if you look at that again, we got a very blue light here, a very green light here.
I see. Yeah.
And then a little bit of a yellow coming from the light above.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In this situation, I thought it was kind of neat. A lot of times I try and avoid that and get completely single color temperatures. But with this really gray and then the glass having a little bit of green in it, and then the light from outside becomes a little more blue.
Okay. Yeah.
But with this, we had basically just done a really long shutter, and then we had done it with lights off, and then we do it with lights on. That way, in post, sometimes the architect wants to be able to show the lighting and what it actually does. So sometimes we'll bring in just those little pieces,
I see.
but not include any of the light that it casts.
I see.
So you get the idea of it, but you can still have a real clean color temperature. With this one,
Yeah.
I think we will use it because it just kind of worked out that the blue, green, yellow, they were kind of segregated into their own things and still felt pretty neat.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but when we shot this direction, the shot that we had done, we did one
pulled
straight that direction.
Were these down?
Well, we shot these down and up.
And,
so,
okay, down and up. Gotcha.
Right, so what we had done is we did the first bottom part of the image. A lot of times we'll do a top and a bottom part of the image. We'll use the shift to get a larger image. So you're using a 35mm format, but it's turning it into a medium format roughly by doing that.
Okay.
And so we'd shoot them down and then we shoot another frame with them up, and so you have them clear on both sides. You just take them out and post.
I see.
But when we shot this, we turned all the lights off and got much more of a uniform color temperature. You have a longer shutter drag on this, so the light really fills in. And then we'd also use a strobe. And generally, if you have a white ceiling, you can bounce the strobe off the ceiling, and it fills in a lot. And then it's just a real gentle hand in post, balancing and bringing the strobe in where it can actually be effective.
Nice.
So.
Okay. Oh, it's helpful. Super helpful. Let's see if there's questions here. I'm sure there's a lot of people in chat. Let's see if we can answer any of these. Yes, the shade strings are an issue. You always do see them, but we can handle that in post, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, those are post. Never believe anything you see in a photo.
So the tension rods in this space, people are asking, the tension rods are actually required structurally for this space. So in order to keep the walls from sort of splaying out, this member is in tension. So that can also be done with a collar tie, and a collar tie to work most efficiently is going to be in sort of the upper third of this space. These tie rods made out of stainless steel are hyper efficient at doing their job. And actually, I was telling Trent earlier, you can tell when they're the right tension because they all sort of resonate at the same frequency. So we can actually pluck them like piano strings. So that's kind of a cool thing. Trent, you'll have to tell me what frequency that is.
Very low.
Great, thank you, Bean Townham. Appreciate that. Hey, greetings to you too. Good to see you all. Let's see if you guys have any questions for Trent. Trent has been doing this. How many years have you been an architectural photographer, Trent?
Probably upwards of 13 or 14 now.
Okay, so typical lens focal lengths. What are your go-to focal lengths for architectural photography? We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Right. If you're starting out and you're on a Canon system, I would recommend getting the 24-70 2.8. That's an incredible lens and it'll work for a ton of stuff. The second lens I would get would probably be the 24 tilt shift.
Ooh.
And then probably the 17 tilt shift. I don't think we're going to use that in the climbing wall today.
Okay.
But the 17 comes in really handy, like in a really tight bathroom space or something. It can be really nice.
Now, tilt shift lenses, all manual controls, all manual focusing.
Yep, all of that.
Price-wise, they're
They're usually pretty expensive. The 24-17 and the 24 and 17 are L series lenses, so they're going to be a lot more expensive.
Sure.
For some reason, Canon doesn't make a 45 or 90 that's an L series, so they have a lot of chromatic aberration. And if you don't know what that is, if you look at high contrast areas on sharp lines, you'll have kind of a, if it's vertical, I think it's that you get a yellow and a green cast, and if it's horizontal, you get maybe a blue and magenta or red. But the cheaper lenses will have more of that.
Interesting.
Now, that being said, now in Lightroom, it's basically a button you click, and it really eliminates it. But
Sure.
the L series lenses are going to be a lot sharper, just higher quality.
Yeah.
So.
And in terms of gear, I mean, what's the baseline gear someone could invest in if they just wanted to get started with architectural photography?
If I were recommending a startup kit, you could get. I use white lightning lights. They're not that great, but they're indestructible and they're super powerful at 3200.
Okay. And you use those to fill in sort of areas so that you're...
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing most of the time is just bouncing that off the ceiling and then really selectively using it in post. Okay. So there's they're not really expensive lights, but they travel well, they're really durable, and they're very powerful. Now, they don't recycle fast.
I see.
They work great for what we do. But yeah, a beginning kit, white lightning 3200, Canon Mark IV, 5D Mark IV, and an iPad to view on. That's extremely important when you're watching live view to see, like especially with interiors where you're moving everything around.
Okay, interesting.
Obviously a tripod with a geared head. The geared head tripod is going to be really, really important.
So that's what you have set up over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's your iPad. Yeah, right.
Yep. So we're using an iPad Pro, which is nice. You can get a lot more screen space on it. And I would recommend just getting a little thing that you can put it on to take it anywhere, use it. So, you're moving to the next one and you just walk over there with it. It's battery powered. You Wi-Fi connect to the camera.
Sure. Yeah, that's great.
And then on the camera, I use a pretty light duty tripod that's carbon fiber because we travel quite a bit and getting through airports and everything else stuff gets heavy.
Yep, okay.
And I go with the smaller geared head. I have the bigger geared head that I use for bigger camera stuff when we're doing video and all that. But you don't really need that crazy of a tripod as long as you're being careful with where you're putting it and that no one's walking on a flimsy floor. You're just going to be fine.
I mean, this is lightweight compared to like when I first started working with architectural photographers when I was like an intern and I was helping set up spaces. They were like big, film camera. So this is probably pretty almost affordable setup too, right? I mean, $1,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could get the aluminum, not carbon fiber, and you could get like just a ball head, and you can be fine with a lot less money.
Interesting. Someone's asking what your Instagram username is.
Trent Bell Photography.
Trent Bell Photography.
Yep.
How old are you? Do you mind sharing that, Trent?
Guess.
It's so personal.
Throw me some guesses. See what we get.
50? 60?
Oh gosh.
Look at that gray in that beard, man.
I'm 42 now.
All right, we're going to go upstairs because people are asking to see it. We're not going to photograph the upstairs today. I think we decided that the composition wasn't quite right. But this is basically a study, and it's a guest room. So lots of books here. The client had a giant book collection, and actually it didn't end up being enough book space for them. So they have this little sort of cabinet here for more books. And then over here we have a sort of Murphy bed situation that pulls down. So we can't do it because the desk is in the way fully, but this is all automatic hardware, Richelieu hardware. Super easy. You can see it's the springs.
This stuff just kind of naturally comes out and turns. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's super slick. And so the client is sort of has a very small frame, and so she needed something that she could operate very easily. And this, I mean, you can see it's almost effortless in how it goes up and down. But for the most part, this just ends up being a study space. So printer, filing cabinets over here. This is one person's workspace, another person's workspace, and then it's out to the view out here, which is, it's a different aspect on the site, but it's yeah, it's kind of plays on that theme that every wing of this structure has a different sort of aspect and their own sort of private view. So this view is not something you can get anywhere else on the site. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see. Sweet view. Yeah. I wish that were my working view. It is not.
Did you tell them what your kids said when you brought them here?
My kids, yes. When my kids visited, they immediately requested that we move into a place like this rather than the home that we were living in now. They were looking to trade up. So it's the problem we have, I think, as architects. We design things that we can't afford ourselves necessarily. So that's all there is in the upstairs component here. I can pop you into the climbing room here. Did you guys capture that yet? Or?
Oh, we haven't yet. No.
Okay.
So
Corey's in whispering to the cats in here. So this is the climbing room, the inside of the climbing room. So the clients designed the entire space here themselves. They designed all the roots, the sort of overhanging roots. And you can see, I think, Trent, do you do any climbing?
Not really, no. My kids do, but I don't.
Well, I think there's some root finding here that happens with the tape. So you're meant to follow the holes on this root.
Yeah, you'll like only do the blue.
That's right. So you only follow those.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't make it beyond kind of this zone here. I'm pretty maxed out there. But one of the interesting things that I hadn't realized before was this detail. They kind of took a couple of 2x6s and they sort of plowed them out irregularly. And this is so that you can jam your hand in here and then really use it to pull yourself up. So it's meant to simulate a sort of rock crack. Couple of skylights up here. These belay bars are all a structural feat to accomplish. They have to support 2 people following 275-pound load and not breaking. So they have a couple of big PSL support posts in there. And then on this side, this is all just their camping and climbing gear behind all these closets here, and then an egress door outside. So, are you guys getting ready to shoot this one?
Yeah, we're gonna use. If they want to see this is an interesting lens. This, if you look closely, this is a tilt shift 17, and the if you look from the side, like the glass actually comes out and around.
That's amazing.
And that's all because it's such a wide view. You need the barrel and the glass to actually make straight lines straight.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. I think this is the most expensive lens we have. I think it's somewhere around 23 to 25.
Wow.
They obviously make way more expensive lenses,
Sure.
but for what we do, it's a great lens.
So now that's going to project the image to the iPad here.
Yep, battery. And of course, we're out of battery.
So batteries are a big issue here, right?
Oh, yeah. But the nice thing about the Mark IV though is that you now have the ability to Wi-Fi connect to the the iPad, which is nice. Whereas before you had to have a whole other thing.
Yeah. Love the cat on the treadmill. It's like working hard. I don't know this cat's name. It's coming over to say hello. All right. It's actually pretty toasty in here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Are those operable up there?
They are not. No, that was a choice, but not selected. So why are we doing a photo shoot of the house? What's the typical request that someone's asking here?
Like why are you paying this guy to come and take pictures?
That's right. Why bother? Why not just do it yourself?
Why not use a rendering?
Yeah.
Or do it yourself?
Right. Yeah.
So as an architect, you're going to have one opportunity to convince someone with probably, you're hoping, good taste and discerning capabilities to tell them this person knows what they're doing or not what they're doing. And if you invest that much money in your education and the work that you do and everything else, and you pass off that last little, that tiny bridge that goes from what you can do to the next client, and you have your cousin with a slightly nice camera or something else do it, it's like you've put all this effort and work behind something, and then that one little bit that actually reaches your next client falls short. It's just such a bad thing.
There's an artistic vision to it. There's composition, there's lighting, there's marketing. Like you have connections to publications and places
Yeah.
that I don't have connections to, right?
A good architectural photographer will have relationships with publishing, housing people, and publishing companies. Anything will be going through their website occasionally just to see what they have. And then they'll say, "Oh, this great house with the climbing wall and all that. Can we run that?" And then blah blah blah. You know.
So it's marketing for the architect.
Yep.
It's a level of professionalism. It's a way to sort of put a capstone on a creative project. Like this is a professional work of mine that took years to create, and me taking photographs of it, even though I'm interested in photography and have some basic level of skill, they don't look this. My photos do not look like your photos.
I mean, I have a master's in architecture, but if I alone, at this point, having not even worked as an architect for the past 13 years, if I tried to do something, I'd have so many shortcomings compared to if. But the general person would look at it and say like, "Oh, this is a great house," but you'd eventually start to run into, "Man, the master bedroom's a little odd," or "This is a little odd," or "That feels odd." The expertise comes through eventually.
It's interesting because when I started looking at architectural photographs and started studying them more, I started realizing converging lines. Like, oh, the stuff that I've been taking photographs of, it looks wrong. Like it's not only is it compositionally tweaked, but the lines are all converging. Like nothing's vertical. You know, the white balance is off, so things are yellow when they shouldn't be yellow. There's mixed color temperatures, you know. So I think there's a lot of things that if you're an amateur or a creative professional, you may not know all the things to look for. Having a professional on board to professionally photograph a space and a project you've invested a lot of time and effort into only makes sense.
Interestingly, the people that I've run into, architects that I've known that either do the photography themselves or invest very little in their photography, never seem to go anywhere, really.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you should be spending more time promoting your business, developing your creativity, developing your style, blah, 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 than thinking about photography. It seems, with the architects that I've interacted with.
The things you're good at, right?
Yeah.
Your highest and best use. So you're getting ready to use the strobe in here too, huh? It seems.
Yeah. So if you look over here, you'll see these areas where, like right here.
Ooh, there we go.
That's keeping the cats out. So in this area, this is not a window. That's sunlight coming directly in and hitting the wall. So we lose all the detail there. But what we'll do is we'll bracket it, and our darkest exposure will bring in some information there. And then our brightest image will be a little closer to there. And this will be the top of the image. And then if you look over here, we're at the top extent of the lens, and watch, we'll shift it down. And then what happens over here is we see the bottom half of the image.
I see.
Now we have, you know, our iPad stand, but we have the treadmill in here, which I don't think we're going to have much of an option to move, but I think it'll probably just become part of this room.
Yeah.
For the architect, this room doesn't have a ton of interest design-wise,
Right. Yeah.
but it is something interesting to showcase.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go tour the rest of the house, and I'll be back.
All right.
We'll see if there's other questions here. Okay, so we're in the hallway here from the garage coming in. We've moved some of the dining chairs initially. In here, guest bathroom. So for the photo shoot, we didn't actually end up capturing this at all. It's just too small, and it's sort of mundane a little bit. So I think we're not going to be spending a lot of time there. We'll come into the guest bedroom here. So this is the guest bedroom. Again, that idea that we've been working with the whole project is that, you know, this space is meant to have its own aspect ratio, its own personal private view to the woods. This one, I think the photo that we might capture is sort of this kind of a view where we're capturing kind of the corner of the structure over there, the main living wing there, and some of the terrace piece here. But I love this space. It's not a huge bedroom, but it's super private, and it just feels kind of knit to the ocean space. So how long did it take to design this specific project? So this project was in design probably for about 9 months, and we do a bunch of design actually at the while the construction is going on. Kind of one of the things that happens, let me get this sort of set up so you're not so jiggly here. One of the things that often happens is we come up with a design, we start construction, we frame out the space, and then the client comes and sees it and says, wow, that's not quite what I had imagined. And so the design process, while it had been 8 or 9 months in the studio, as it's happening in construction, and this was about an 18 to 24 month construction period. It was a little bit more drawn out than I would have expected. During that time, we were actually working on some future designs. So designing some of the kitchen cabinetry, working on some of the details, detailing for this cabinet unit in particular. So yeah, that's about the extent of the time frame for this. All right, let's see. How many stories is this house? So it's basically a single level, and then there's an upper level that I went to a little bit earlier in the video. I'll be uploading this, so if you're watching it live, you can catch the replay there and you'll see that upper level space. There's also some storage space above the garage as well. And if you're just tuning in now, I can sort of pop back outside. Again, we can have a little peek around. Put my shoes on. How many square feet? This is about 3,200 square feet in total. And that includes the garage wing here. So single giant garage door houses 2 cars, 8-foot garage door here. We have firewood storage. You may recognize this detail from my studio. So we're sort of doing it in here. Curious to know the choice of, let's see, choice of window frames. So the idea with the exterior material palette was to really blend in with the forest. So if you notice here how dark the forest is, I wanted this building to really mesh and gel with that. So the black window frames were an easy way to do that. Black will tend to recede in the overall scheme of things. Let's see. Okay, what's the finish used on the walls? So these are Eastern white cedar shingles. These are pre-dipped in the factory, so we get these from Canada. These are Mabec shingles, and we choose the stain color, and they actually apply the stain in the factory. It's a moss green. It's not quite as vibrant as I'm seeing it here on the video. The flashing up here, this is all lead-coated copper. And if we come up a little higher, you can see these flat roofs are all EPDM. You can see the rubber roofing kind of coming up on here. Do you work alone or do you have a team of architects in your studio? So I work alone, and that allows me the freedom to come out here and attend these photo shoots and do the things that I want to do each day. So in the mornings, generally it's design work. Today is a little bit different. In the afternoons, it's meetings, site meetings, contractor meetings, new client meetings. Had a couple of those this week already. And then today is a special day just because we need to be here the whole day to capture the photo shoot. Yeah, thank you, Praveen. Appreciate your comment. It's great seeing you here. What books do you recommend for architectural detailing? I have all of my book recommendations on my site. You can check the links below. You'll find those. There's actually some really great ones. I did a video on architectural detailing not too long ago, and I actually have another one coming up that's next in the queue. Let's see. How much do you get paid for this? That's an interesting question. So architectural fees are generally based on a percentage of construction. I work hourly. So this ends up being 10%. The fee for this ends up being about 10% of the cost of construction here. And I can't divulge the cost of construction, but you might guess. Wait, that's your house. No, this is not my house. I do wish this were my house. This is a great place. So for the patio, okay, so people are asking about the wood on the deck. The wood on the deck is Ipe. So we looked at a number of different options for that. We'll go down and look at it. So Ipe is a tropical hardwood, which I know people have issues with. But for us, it ended up being a life cycle issue. Its durability, it's going to last a long time. You can see here how it weathers out to this kind of silvery gray. It's super durable. It's not easy to work with, but for the same reason that it's not easy to work with, it's durable. So we want this deck to last a long time. We don't want to be replacing it. One of the things that we did during construction here was kind of cover the foundation wall in the same decking detail. So you can see the decking detail continues across here and then it comes up the sidewall. Instead of having the concrete exposed as it is here, it kind of takes this deck detail and wraps up. And I like this detail where you turn the deck board vertically at the step face. So you can see here, vertical, and then comes here. So for the photo shoot, we've been capturing some of these details. Trent is just finishing up in the climbing room, and then hopefully this afternoon we're going to be able to get some more shots out here. Why the perpendicular deck detail? I like the way that it appears to be more monolithic. So you can see, so it's purely an aesthetic idea. You know, the other way you can do this is sort of take the riser and keep it down below and continue the deck boards out. You can do a trim band here. I like how sort of blocky and chunky this looks. I feel like it fits the design aesthetic for the entire house. Someone asked about lead coating the copper here, and the lead coated copper here performs really well on the coast, and the bare copper didn't fit with the design aesthetic, so that was the choice there. All right. How much does this cost? I'm not able to share that with you. Client hasn't given me permission on that, but you can make your own guesses there, I suppose. What's your thoughts on architecture magazines such as Architectural Digest, and are they worth it? You know, I think architectural magazines are a way to sort of seed new ideas in your design thinking, and so I definitely think they're worthwhile. Oftentimes when I was a student and I couldn't afford things, I would just go to the library and get them there. Yeah, so someone's asking about the stairs, and I'll walk back here just for a moment. So these are step lights in the stairs here. And we also have step lights in the concrete here. So this board-formed planter wall was a particular design challenge. We sort of taught the local contractors here how to do board-formed concrete. It's not something the concrete contractors in Maine really had much experience doing. And so it takes a lot to get this right. And you can see our board coursing here. We wanted the light to be centered in a board coursing. So lots of details to consider with this. And it's been a lot of fun kind of figuring out, trying to figure out, you know, what makes sense, and from a cost standpoint, what we can afford to do, and what this local skill level can support too. Do builders ever challenge your details because you aren't the one building? Of course, yes, all of the time. You know, I look for collaborative working arrangements, and generally, you know, I want someone who's going to respect my design ideas just like I respect their construction experience. And in general, we meet in the middle. And certainly there was a lot of that happening on this project. So we've moved to the client's dining room table outside for the photo shoot and replaced it with a different table inside here. I have a nice hot tub here. It's a little warm today for the hot tub, but the clients use this for primarily in the wintertime. So that's kind of a nice detail. You notice architecturally, everything's aligned, everything's centered on everything else. So it's super important, I think. One detail I wanted to point out, we have these gutters, these metal gutters here, and you can see the support for those is coming from the soffit area. Metal roofs are particularly hard in terms of how you fasten gutters to them. So that was a particular design challenge that we had. I think they came out pretty clean. That was actually an invention of the contractors. So we wouldn't have any metal clips going up onto the roof there. It remains nice and clean. Everything is kept at the soffit level. And we'll go up here and look, but you can see how clean that knife's edge is. So the rails on the roof, these are called snow rails or snow fence. And you can see them particularly here on the garage. Let me get into the shadow here. So these keep the snow from falling down onto this space. They just allow the snow to melt right there on top. So this project is in the USA. This is in Maine. We're going to see it at night, and I'm going to be filming some additional video here as part of another video for the channel. So you guys will get to see what the night shots look like and the rest of the sort of behind the scenes of this. Okay, as the weather is quite hot, what's used for insulation in the roof? So here we're actually building in a cold climate. Maine is a cold climate. So we have spray foamed insulation. We have 2x8 walls. They're all spray foamed solid with spray foam insulation. And that's the entire assembly. We were gonna do a split 2x4 wall assembly for the thermal break, but it ended up being too cost prohibitive. But the spray foam insulation right to the roof level is the best system we found. That way we can run any mechanicals inside the conditioned envelope. All right. Did I design this? Yes, I designed this. So the main goals we were trying to achieve with the design of the building, I'll ask you to go back to the original design concept videos. Here, we can maybe pop inside and look at the initial concept sketch that I did for this, but I wanted this to be sort of terraced and nestled into the hillside. It was designed as a sort of collection of little tent outbuildings. Oh, am I disrupting?
No,
Sorry.
you're gonna get.
So it was designed as a series of outbuildings where her friends could come and gather and be also separate from one another. And so there's a pod over here, a gathering pod in the center, and then another private guest pod over in that wing. But there's a lot more details in the rest of the channel. And I'll try and link those up after I load this video up in the end. I appreciate everybody who came by for the live stream. I haven't done too many of these. I hope to do more. I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of show you around as we were photographing. And I'll be sure to capture some additional footage while I'm here with Trent. And any of your questions, and comments here in the chat, I realize I haven't been able to get to too many of them. I'll definitely pop into the comments and answer those as I get a little more time later. All right. I didn't answer about the AC machines. Okay, let me answer. I'll talk about the heating system here for a minute. The heating and cooling system here is geothermal. So we have a little control pad here, so you can see. Let's see. So this little control pad shows you sort of everything for the week, how much energy was used, and the cost. So let me get closer here. Okay, so the cost to run the energy consumption for this house was 72 cents for the past week. So what we tried to do was be super efficient. The client was very conscious of energy consumption here. There are 3 geothermal wells that are located just on the other side of the driveway here, and they feed a heat pump exchanger in the basement. And currently it's about 74 degrees and the AC is on. So out of these vents, yep, I can feel the AC, the air is coming through them. It's just designed to keep this space at a constant temperature. So it's worked really well. In the dead of winter, the energy costs were extremely low, like shockingly low. We have solar panels on the roof. You'll have to go back earlier to the earlier part of the video to see that. But just in terms of a combination of energy usage, the geothermal system, although it has a high upfront cost, is really going to pay for itself in the long term, and it's really proving out with this sort of energy monitoring system. I will be uploading this, so yes, you can definitely watch the entire thing later. I appreciate all of you sort of stopping by. I'm going to get back to the work that's ongoing here, and I'm glad I've been able to show you around the Squid Cove project. You guys have seen this in many forms before, but maybe not live like this. All right. Cheers, my friends. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.